Welcome everybody. Again, my name is Bob Stewart. Today we're going to talk about creating calls to action to generate leads from our blog posts. If you want to talk to me now, later, whenever, I'm on Twitter at ActiveBob, and you can also find us on our Facebook page at facebook.com/ActiveRain. So when we're talking about calls to action or how do we generate leads with our blog, there's a couple of things that I want to kind of talk about to set the foundation for the next 45 minutes. The first thing is going to be, why do people go online for real estate? And I mentioned this in some of our previous classes. I believe there are 3 reasons why people go online as it relates to real estate. And so when we're writing our blog posts, we really want to look at them from the perspective of, is it satisfying one of these 3 reasons as it relates to real estate? And I understand sometimes there's posts that you guys will write, maybe it's about a local event or a local business, where you're just trying to kind of get your name out there and associate it with something local in your area. But as it relates to real estate, so if you're writing a post about real estate, you really want to try to identify, does my post satisfy one of these 3 reasons why people go online? So people go online for listings, home values, and information. And now, the majority of the reason why people is going online is for listings, and that is going to be the biggest area where we are able to generate leads, where somebody goes online, they're looking for a listing or some type of a listing or a home in a particular area or a particular condo complex like we talked about in some of our previous classes, a particular type of home, if you remember from last week. They also go online for home values. They want to know, how much is my house worth, right? Sites like Zillow, Zillow is getting, 20+ million visitors a month, and a lot of those people are going online trying to figure out what is my house worth. Now, it doesn't matter whether or not Zillow's estimates or Zestimates are correct or not. In the mind of the consumer, they can go online now to get a value for their house. Right? The internet tells us everything. This third bucket, information, I realize this becomes a catch-all, right? If they're not going on for listings or for home values, obviously if it's related to real estate, it's about some piece of information. But once we understand kind of the 3 reasons that people go online, then we can start to look at our blog posts and figure out, okay, where in our posts can we get calls to action that satisfy these reasons that people go online. The other thing, and I don't actually have a slide on here for this, but I like to bring this up. The other thing we want to consider, or I want you to consider, is what is the purpose of your website? And when I'm talking about your website, I'm not talking about your blog. I'm talking about generally, I'm talking about the place where you are able to display listings to a consumer. Your IDX is what that's called. Okay, how are you able to take listings out of the MLS and put them on your website so that you're able to give that information to the consumer? And what is the purpose of that site? Now, as it relates to the class today, and really, I've had the pleasure over the last number of years of looking at the businesses of some of the top agents. We're talking people that do hundreds of deals a year, but also people that generate hundreds of leads a month. And one of the things that every single one of those people I've had the chance to sit down with and look at their websites and look at their business, every one of them has an innate understanding that the primary purpose of their website, or at least one of the websites they have in their arsenal, is to generate leads. And if you're on a class right now that's about calls to action and lead generation from your blog, you need to have a website in your arsenal that is 100% capable of lead generation. So I'm going to show you some examples today from a market leader website. Listen, guys, I don't care which website you use, right? Market Leader owns ActiveRain. I'm very familiar with their IDX product, so I use it as an example. It doesn't matter if you use them, but you have to have something that operates in the fashion like we're going to talk about, especially as it relates to the listings portion today. So let's talk about that, right? People go online to find listings. We want to make sure that when they find our content, if they were actually interested in listings, and so I realized that as we're writing blog posts, a lot of our blog posts could just fall into that information bucket, right? If we've written about a specific subdivision or a specific condo complex, or like I talked about last week, homes for sale with a basement in Dallas, right? If that's the type of posts that we're writing, we want to make sure, because the post itself is serving as information for them. Right? They land on the post. If it's about the subdivision, we're giving them all that good evergreen content about the subdivision, what it's like to live here, what are the houses like, what are the lots like, what's going on nearby, what's transportation like, what's the homeowners association like. Just good information. But think about this now. If they went to the search engine and they were looking for homes for sale in XYZ subdivision, and they found our blog post, which is giving them great information about living in this area, if they actually just wanted to see the listings, we got to make it really obvious how they do that, and we got to make sure they can find those very quickly. Okay, so the most obvious way that we're going to introduce them to the listings is going to be through a link. Okay, and then this is not, hopefully for nobody on here, this is not groundbreaking information, right? Oh, you can put a link in a blog post that sends them to find listings. A couple of things about the link that we want to consider. We want the anchor text on the link to be specific. And when we think about back to the SEO class, one of the things we talked about in the SEO class is we want to have a link in our blog post that utilizes our keyword phrase. I'll give you an example here. So this is homes for sale in Seattle's Cedar Park. Right? This is a small community or neighborhood inside of Seattle. They've got a link very early in the blog post that utilizes the keyword phrase, so it has that specific anchor text that sends somebody off to actually get listings in Cedar Park. It's above the fold, okay? And what that means is when somebody lands on the page, they don't have to scroll in order to find the path to get listings. It's really important. We have a very short amount of time to capture somebody's attention when they land on our page. So if they've done a query on Google for homes for sale in Seattle Cedar Park and they land here, and the post itself is going to be evergreen, right? Because today's homes that are on the market are not going to be the same homes that are on the market 6 months from now when somebody finds this, or a year from now when somebody finds this. So we want to give them a path to find the current homes for sale. We don't want to give them the current homes for sale on that page. Otherwise, that makes that page no good a year from now. So it's above the fold, which means they don't have to scroll, and it clearly details what they're going to get. So in this case, people are starting to understand when they see a link, whatever the words that make up the link are is what's going to be on the other side of that link when they click on it. Another thing you want to consider about the link is you need to land them in the exact spot, and you need to get them to the information they wanted in as few of clicks as possible. And then once you land them in that spot, the listings need to be the primary focus of that landing page. And those last three things all brought together, if you can get this right, it will dramatically increase your ability to take traffic from your blog and convert it into a lead on your website. Now, only getting one of these things right, for example, you get the links above the fold, and it's really obvious that they can where to click in order to find the links, but you don't land them in the right spot, well, you can do a good job at your blog generating traffic for your website, but that won't necessarily turn into leads for your business. So it's above the fold, it clearly details what they want, and then it's going to send them to some landing page. And you'll notice in this particular example, and I'm going to go live here in a second and kind of show you guys how this works so you really get a feel for it. But in this example, the listings are clearly there, right? When they land on this page, the very first thing that you kind of see on this page is, okay, there's homes for sale right here. So let's go in and look at this. And this is a post that you guys may have seen from me before. I'm writing about a very particular building in Seattle, the Plaza del Sol condos. And you'll notice when we land here, and we could have come out here and done like a Google search, so how would somebody find this, right? They might do something like this. They might do something like Plaza del Sol condos for sale. Somehow they're going to get to Google, and hopefully they're going to find our piece of content. So here's my piece of content, right? They've clicked through here. We've done things like, we've written the post based on the things we've talked about in the previous classes. Right? I've got my face in there because I'm using Google authorship. They're now on my blog post, but think about this for a second. Again, my blog post is just that great information about the Plaza del Sol condos. But if they actually wanted to see the listings, to see condos for sale, I need to have a very clear path to be able to get that for them. And so if somebody was to click on this link right here, what's going to happen is I'm going to land them on a page that looks like this. Okay? First thing, are the listings there? They're absolutely there. Is this what they wanted? Yes, it's condos. Now, in this particular example, I'm not giving them condos in that building. Okay, sometimes our IDX doesn't allow us to get something very, very specific, like just to a certain building. That's all right. Okay, the goal is to get them into the site and starting to look at listings. Okay, so notice this link right here, when they click it, it lands them in a very specific place on my website. Now here are some of the other options for where I could have landed this person, right? I could have landed them on the home page of my website. I could have landed them right here, and I could have said, okay, consumer, you go find them, right? And this is already kind of saving what I'm doing here, so it's got a search in here already, but it would have essentially for anybody else looked like this, right? And it wouldn't have even had this. It would have been like all types. It would have been this real general search. Now, let's look at how many clicks would it take them to try to figure out and find what I'd already told them they should have been getting from here, right? Similar condos to the Plaza del Sol. Right? It'd take them at least, well, they go, well, it's on Capitol Hill. If they even knew that, they might only know it's in Seattle. Then they'd have to come down here and do condos, and then they'd have to do a price range. Mine was actually set up at 400, and then they'd have to come over here, and now they've got it, and then they hit search. But it took them 5 clicks maybe, and every single click that we force them to take when they hit our landing page, the higher likelihood they will just leave. So we want to do those things for them in advance. And in fact, what we would do is you would look at your website when you're creating this type of a blog post, and you would actually craft the search on your website in advance. So as you're writing the blog post, you're coming over to your website and you're saying, look, I can't get them all the way just to condos in Plaza del Sol, but I can get them onto Capitol Hill, which is the area they're looking at, and I can get them into the price range that I know Plaza del Sol condos are in. So most of those condos are going between 200 and 300,000. Okay, I could maybe come in here and say, look, I'm not looking for like loft condos. There's none in this building, so I could put it maybe at 1 bedroom, see if that took out 3 that were loft condos that wouldn't have applied. Right, I'm starting to kind of refine the search on my own, on my side, before I ever give it to the consumer. And now I've got a link up here. See this link, this big long URL? This is the URL that I'm going to use in my blog post. So I'm going to copy that URL. I'm going to come back here now. Now I'm just going to edit this post. So for those of you that, and hopefully everybody on here knows how to create a link, but let's say you don't. So I've come in here, I've written my blog post, and again, very early on, I'm going to allow them to find similar condos for sale to the Plaza del Sol condos for sale on Capitol Hill. And I'm going to come in here, and these are the words I'm going to use as my anchor text, right? Anchor text is just the words that the link gets created out of. It's going to match my title, and that's from our SEO class. So I'm going to highlight that. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to insert the link, And then I'm going to paste in that link that I'd created on my own website. Again, the reason I do that is because it's got all this data in here that's going to land them in the right spot. It's not just going to land them on the home page. It's not just going to land them on a search page where they can look for condos. I want to actually give them, what they wanted. I want to make it as easy as possible to get them in front of listings. In this case, I'm going to open this link in the same window. Now, here's the difference between opening in the same window and opening in a new window. My blog post, if somebody clicks on this link, the one that says find similar condos for sale, the Plaza del Sol, if they click on that link, my blog post did its duty. Its duty was to get them on my website looking at listings. So I'm going to have this link take over the blog post window, because I don't really care if they ever find that blog post again, so long as they're on my website. If I was going to link off to someone else's website, or some place that wasn't a lead capture opportunity for me, then I would open it in a new window. Because what would happen then is it would force open a brand new window or a new tab in my browser. And once they were done looking there and they closed that tab down, my blog post would still be there. Because remember, we'd sent them to someone else's website. Maybe we sent them to the homeowners association's website, or maybe we sent them to like just a blog about Capitol Hill if they wanted to know more about what's going on in the area. That wouldn't fulfill my goal, right? My goal is to get them on my website looking at listings. But if that is what the link is about, then we're going to open it in the same window. And then on the title, we're going to give the title some kind of a phrase that's similar but different from the anchor text that we're using. So condos around Plaza del Sol on Capitol Hill. Right? Not exactly the same phrase, but kind of similar. We're going to hit insert. Now I've got my link in here. Okay, so now when I come down and publish my blog post and somebody finds it, and they click here, notice it took that window over, right? My blog post is essentially gone, and if they get in here and start poking around and looking at condos, right, and heading off, and here's where the lead capture comes in, okay? And in this case, it's just asking for name and email address, and they can continue looking after that, right? If you do not have lead capture on your website, you are going to have a hard time capturing leads, right? The leads you're going to get will be far fewer. They'll be a little bit higher quality because they'll be the people, well, they'll be a lot higher quality. They'll be the people that pick the phone up and call you, but that will not happen as often as somebody who's willing, especially when they're 8 months away from buying, they're 6 months away from buying, they're a year and a half away from buying. Most people want to be able to kind of look at things without picking the phone up and calling you. And still today, they are willing to give their information. Now, I always get somebody who says, I never give my information, so I just don't think people want to do this, or I don't feel comfortable doing this. If you don't feel comfortable attempting to get somebody's information in exchange for them to be able to look at your listings, your internet lead generation is not for you. Okay, now I'll show you a couple of other ways later that maybe you can kind of trade information. But this is a fundamental core of generating leads online. The majority of leads that are generated online are done around the idea of people looking for listings. Not too long ago, I was looking for a new car. And I'm one of those people, like, I'm not going to give you my information just to give it to you. But if I'm serious about something, like when I was serious about a new car, I'm willing to exchange my information. And I even realized, especially like with a new car, because I wasn't on like a dealer's website. I was on kind of one of these general websites, and I knew when I put my info in there, it was probably going to go out to 5, 6, 8 people. I was prepared for that because I knew what I wanted. And so you got to have this lead capture opportunity somewhere in your website. And again, these are happening. And now they've got cookies on my machine, so now every time we get in there, it's going to try to get us to upgrade. But essentially, it's letting them see one unit and then it's going to try to get them to upgrade. So we have to have that lead capture potential in there. Some of the other things, you guys need to make sure, and you need to understand how your website works. Like, do you have the ability to create these very unique URLs? If you don't, the best you're going to be able to do is send somebody like to a page like this, like a search page, right? And then again, think about it. Every additional step we make them take is less of a likelihood that they're going to do what we wanted them to do, which was register, give us their name and email address. So that's why landing them on these exact pages where listings are what they wanted and it's what they see is really, really important. This isn't related to your blog post. This is actually a Facebook post, as you can obviously see. But I want you guys to think about your website, and you really have to have an understanding of your website. And I come across a lot of agents who don't even realize kind of how their website works or what potential they have there. Like, I would never suggest that you just be that person that all day long is posting listings on Facebook, but if you were going to post something out there anywhere, Twitter, Facebook, whatever, in your blog, are you going to write a blog about like some really great listings that are on the market right now? Maybe, you know, once a week or once a month you do like a special blog post that's, hey, the awesome listings that are out there right now. Like in Seattle, to find a 2-bedroom condo for $129,000 is unheard of. Okay, so like this link is a link to a specific page on my website that has just the bank-owned foreclosed condos, or it might even be properties, in Finney Ridge, including a 2-bedroom condo for $129,000. It's a very specific thing, right? This is something that somebody might be interested in, right? Again, the ability to get a condo in this area for $129,000 is crazy. In fact, I'm 100% sure that condo's gone because this is an old example. But look at your website, and again, let's go look at, I want you to think about all of the things that you have the potential to do in here, okay? From our class last week, I used the example of the guy in Dallas who tells me that, man, his most popular post is homes for sale in Dallas with a basement. So if I wanted my most popular post to be homes for sale in Seattle with a basement, and maybe it was going to be, you know, in a certain price range, so I might go up to $500,000. Like, what kind of homes can you get in Seattle with a basement under $500,000? This search right here, so single family, right? Maybe we throw a multifamily in there. We don't want leases or rentals, right? With a basement. That search gives me and it's way too many, obviously, in this case, but that's okay, right? Somebody who was looking for a home for sale in Seattle with a basement would figure out, oh, there's a lot of homes around with a basement, and then they have a chance now to come in here and refine this. But there's lots of opportunities in here, and sometimes the types of posts you might even consider writing could be based on what types of listing feeds you're able to give somebody. So mine, that one we were looking at earlier was Finney Ridge, right? So I might come up here and do Finney Ridge, give them condos, single family, and multifamily. We're just going to do foreclosures, right? And we might even open this up and have no price range in here. So this search would be for homes for sale or foreclosed homes for sale, Finney Ridge, Seattle. And again, we're getting earlier there was 7. There's still 7. Let's see. I doubt that $129,000 condo's there. Ooh, but look, there's an $89,000 condo. It's only 1 bedroom, right? But these are the foreclosures. So you can see how doing a post about, you know, foreclosures on Finney Ridge, and I could have this really clear call to action in there where they're looking at just the 7 foreclosed homes in Finney Ridge right now. Okay, some other ways. So the link is the most obvious, and all of your posts should absolutely have that link, you know, back to your website. And again, hopefully your website has this capacity in it, right? This ability to create these customized searches, to have links now that you can send people back to. Sometimes it might not just be the link. Sometimes we could use like an image. Okay, these are 2 images that I created at a site called ipicky.com. Carrie will send you that link out right now, but it's just, you can see it on the page, ipiccy.com, ipicky.com. These things are super easy to create. The first time you create one of them might take you, 10 or 15 minutes to kind of get the feel for it. I created each of these in like 4 minutes. You can look on these images and you could tell what my posts were about. Right? The one on the left would have been, new construction in Kirkland under $400,000. That would have been the title of my post, right? I would have had a link in there somewhere that said find, click here to find, and then the anchor text would have been new construction in Kirkland under $400,000, right? But now I can add this image in there as a way to just kind of draw their attention that, look, there, if you click here, right, we're going to send you to a search for new construction in Kirkland under $400,000. Now, how would you create a link out of that image? It's really easy. So let's say this was the image, right? That new construction in Kirkland under $400,000. All I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and click on the image. Right? I've got the image in there already. In order to create a link out of it, I'm just going to click on it. I'm going to do a link. I'm going to open the same window because it's going to be new construction under 400K in Kirkland, whatever. Now that becomes a link, right? Come down here and post my blog. My image now is a link. Now it's not a traditional link in that it has anchor text, but somebody clicks on it, and I use the command button there to click that, so it should have taken this over, but I didn't want it to, right? I'm off here to whatever that image told me I was going to get. You could potentially embed your listings right into the content. And for most of us, this isn't going to be a route that you will go because your website's not going to be able to do this. There's a few sites out there that have this capability. Like, this is an example from RealBird. And RealBird's kind of an IDX provider. They won't necessarily have all the listings, but they have a lot of them. If your site allows you to embed listings into a blog post, you could potentially do that. Okay? The thing about this is you want to make absolute sure that in doing this, however you're embedding it, allows the listings to be updated and fresh. Because on my post here, right, this is as good today as it will be in 6 months or a year, because when somebody clicks on this information on my IDX is going to update itself. Tomorrow, if this house sells, it won't be in this feed, right? My IDX, my website, is looking at the MLS all the time and figuring out what's sold, get it off the site, And now tomorrow when they come here, it might be 23 homes, right? A year from now when they come here, it might be 40 homes. So be careful with the embed stuff. You need to make sure that it's updated and it's up to date and fresh content. Again, maybe we can entice them with a deal, right? So a deal on listings. We talk about foreclosures, or maybe you have an image in there that says, get the 5 best properties right now in Capitol Hill. The 5 best priced condos on Capitol Hill, right? Some kind of a deal to get somebody to say, well, we're looking for a condo on Capitol Hill, but man, if this guy's got the 5 best properties right now, I want them. And I'll show you kind of what that might look like in terms of delivering that information to somebody here in a minute. And again, we would just wrap this, this image into our piece of content. We'll create a link out of it. This is ultra important, right? We have to, and I've hit this 6 times already, so I'm just reiterating it. We always want to make sure we land them in the right spot. Okay, it needs to have listings on the page, and they need to be related to what they thought they were going to get. And in this case, if you were to look real close there, you can see that this is foreclosures in Green Lake. Right? I did the search on my site already. I made sure the link added up. You might have search widgets available. the search widgets are something that you could have like in the sidebar of your Active Rain blog post, or maybe at the bottom of a post. I would never just have a search widget in there, especially if I was doing one of these real particular kinds of posts about a certain subdivision, a certain condo complex, a certain type of home for sale. I would always have the link in there, but a search widget would be a fallback, right? That might be something where if I was just writing a general post about, the 5 things you have to do before you buy a house, right? That's not going to be a post where somebody's looking for like a particular sort of home in a particular area where my links are going to be effective. But that might be a post where after they read it, they go, man, we do have our ducks in a row. Like, we are ready to start looking at houses. Okay, these search widgets, and again, these are things that your website may provide, are a way for you to kind of take advantage of those other kinds of posts that you're going to have in your blog, right? The posts that aren't necessarily about a specific place or a specific type of property. So there's some ways to kind of display listings, get listings in front of people. Let's talk about home values for a second. And I spend a lot more time on the listing side of things because, look, for every 20 inquiries you would get about a listing, you would get 1 about a home value. And one of the reasons for that is the way that people search for home values is not as long tail as the way that people search for listings. Home values are generally searched for by somebody going to Google and typing in like Seattle house prices, Seattle home values, what's my Seattle home worth. These general sorts of searches, the results pages are dominated by the Zillows, the Trulias, the Realtor.coms, right? Those big box sites. It's very difficult for us to get in front of people that want to list their house with us. Now it's not crazy that somebody would go do a search about their particular area or their kind of house to try to figure out who out there is marketing properties like mine, right? But I don't know, what is 60% of the people that are buying a house have a house to sell? So if they're out there looking for listings, we may want to make sure that somewhere in there we give them the opportunity to find out what their house is worth as well. So we could do images like this, right? Again, super easy to make something like this that eye-picky. We could use widgets, and Zillow has a widget that actually allows you to kind of create the widget, and then when somebody uses it, when they head back to Zillow, it's branded with you. You can choose, right? Are you comfortable doing that? Would you rather just try to point them to your website where they can actually get a real valuation of a home, not just a Zestimate? I think for calls to action and listings, there's a couple of other things that you might consider doing, and I really like that there's a guy, this guy's name is Sonny Kwan, and he's got a couple of blog posts where he's kind of talking about, things related to listings. And in those blog posts, he will embed a video with his listing presentation in it. I think this is a great call to action, right? Watch my listing presentation, like see what I do for you before you ever invite me into your home. I think this is a really, really awesome idea for a call to action, right? I mean, it's letting them know this is the job that I'm going to do for you. And he's using an iPad. His is slick. And client testimonial videos is another. These aren't, direct call to actions in the sense that, somebody can click something and become a lead. But they're great ways to strengthen the relationship with somebody who's on your blog, right, who might be considering doing business with you. Now, you should absolutely use the link again from the perspective of home values, and hopefully you have somewhere on your website where if somebody did want to get a value on their home, they could give you their information. And you notice in here I have something kind of towards the top of the page. Hey, if you want to get the value of your Seattle home or condo, right? Go here. And where does this go? It's going to go to this what is my home worth page, right? This sell page on my website, where again, somebody can give me their contact information to figure out what their house is worth. Right? These kinds of pages on our website, these landing pages, these that have the potential for lead capture are ultra important on your website. And again, it goes back to thinking, well, what is the purpose of my website? If the purpose is for lead generation, I need to have these kinds of pages. This last bucket then is they want information. Okay, and again, a lot of times our blog post is giving them the information they wanted, but we want to think about what are some of the other things around a neighborhood, a condo complex, a particular type of property. What are some of the other things that somebody might be interested in? Here's some of those things. Okay, and we will give you guys these image calls to action at the end of the class. Okay, we created these for you guys to be able to use. So visit my website for free school reports, right? Dreaming of different neighbors, get free community reports, right? We created a couple of these images that you guys can use in your blog post. But you have to be able to give them that information on the other side. So then again, it comes back to, is my website capable of giving information like this? And so like I've got this call to action down here, hey, pick your future neighbors. And when somebody clicks on that, let me clear up a few of these tabs here. So we clicked on this, and we're brought to this Market Insider page, this page that can give them all kinds of local school information, right, market analysis, right, they can see price trends, they can see property ownership data, they can see all sorts of, stats and fun stuff and all of this kind of additional information around Capitol Hill. Right? Again, what kind of tools does your website have? Because this all comes back to your website. Okay? On your blog, your primary way to get somebody to contact you is to pick the phone up and call you. You have to have these tools that are capable of driving people back to your website and hopefully getting them to convert into a lead. Now, you could actually have forms that you drive someone to. And these forms were created out of a site called Wufoo. And they are super easy to create. Wufoo.com, again, it's one of those things where the first time you go in there, it might take you 15 minutes to create your first form in Wufoo, right? It might take you 25 or 30 minutes to really get it looking like you want it to look. The next time you come back, it's going to be a heck of a lot easier. Okay, what would we do with these forms? Well, I've got one in here. I just plopped it in the blog post, right? What Wufoo will do is it will give me a piece of code, a piece of HTML code. And then I can take that and plop it in here. So what does that look like? Well, here's Wufoo. So from my Wufoo homepage here, I've got my, where is it? Ask a question about Plaza del Sol form that I built, right? And then it just gives me some code that I can come in here and I want the embed code, and I can grab this little iframe version of the embed code. And I can come in here and now I'm going to open the HTML portion. So this will get a little bit advanced, but so here's the HTML of my blog post. And down here at the very bottom, we see this form, right? And I would have just pasted in the form that they gave me. Hit update. My form's actually going to come out really big and crazy, and I go, wow, that's way too big. Let me go back here. I don't want that thing that big. I'm going to come in here and somewhere it gives me a Oh, that's the forms down here. The width, instead of at 100% of the page, I'm going to make it at 50% of the page. And then I'm going to center it. And I can do this because I know enough HTML to be dangerous. See that? That's the tag for center. And then at the end, I'm going to end that center tag like that. Boom. Hit update. Now I've got a form that's 50% of the width of the page. It's centered. I come down here and post it. Right? It's just a non-threatening way. Hey, they can ask a question about this condo complex, kind of a call to action on the page. Right? You can actually put borders around this too, and I was trying to figure it out. I just didn't get a chance to. I apologize. Somebody asked me, somebody sent me an email yesterday, and hopefully she's on the call today, and she said, can you talk about some of the buzzwords that I might consider using in my blog to get people to take action? Best price properties, right? That's a buzzword. Like, here are the 5 best priced condos on Capitol Hill. Still today, the idea of a great deal, so a foreclosure or a short sale, right? A lot of people set out looking for a foreclosure or a short sale. They don't end up buying one. But we could deliver, here's a list of the 8 properties currently foreclosed in Capitol Hill. Right? Discounts on services. So, $350 value, get a free home inspection when you buy with Bob. Right? You could drive these people back to a form. So this would be an image, we create a link out of it, and it goes back to a WooFoo form. Right? Learn about hot listings before they hit the market. Free resources. So if you guys have like PDFs or really anything in your business that can be turned into a PDF, that's a great resource. Right? People want these resources. They're out there looking for these resources, so maybe it's a short sale guide. I want you to think about how you could actually deliver that to someone through your blog. And here's one way you could do that. You can allow them to download a PDF. There's a couple of steps here, but essentially you have the PDF, right? So you've created your short sale guide. You would need to host that somewhere. And that somewhere would need to be a place that allows you to have a link for somebody to download it. Now, we use a site called Wistia, so like when you guys have the action items from each of the classes we've done, we'll drive you to a Wistia page that has a download function at the top. That's where you download the PDF. So you take your short sale guide, you place it on Wistia, you've now got a URL, then you're going to create a form, right, a WooFoo form. It's going to say, get my free short sale guide. It's going to ask for their name and their email address. When they hit submit on that form, then there's a couple of ways you can create these WooFoo forms. I'll show you. Say I want to edit my form here. So this says, get your short sale guide, and all it is just an email address maybe, or a name and an email address. In the form settings area, there's this confirmation options. So I could show them text, or I could just redirect them to where the form is actually at. Right? So they're going to give me their email address. When they hit submit, I'm going to redirect them to, myform.com/short sale guide. Whatever the URL is of where that person needs to go, that's what I'm going to put in there. I'm going to save it. Right? So now this form, when somebody filled it out for my short sale guide and gave me their email address and hit submit, they would be redirected to that page that had my short sale guide available for download on it. So 3 easy steps to allowing somebody to download a PDF. And think about, what could you allow somebody to download? Maybe it could be that list of the 5 best properties for sale today. Right? And that'd be something you'd have to upload or keep up on. Maybe you just change the form. A week from now, you change it to the new URL of the page that's hosting that new 5 new properties. All right, so we're at the top of the hour. If you guys have more questions for me throughout the day, or you start getting into this stuff, and you just something's just not seeming right, come to our Facebook page, facebook.com/activerain. You can leave a comment on the Facebook page, and you can see we respond to these comments in here. So you can get in there and leave a comment. I'll jump in there and try to answer any kind of outstanding questions that are in here. The questions, it's kind of a combination of you guys giving me your thoughts and asking questions. So appreciate you guys joining me. On behalf of Carrie and Michelle behind the scenes, my name is Bob. Bye-bye, everybody.